of use of chat facility, and that these comments made in the chat facility are visible to all participants in the meeting, which may include members of the public who have also received invites to this.
We're not hearing you, convener. You're on mute.
Oh, shouldn't be on mute.
Have you got your rights?
We missed most of your opening statement as well. We've only got partway through the last paragraph.
You like them? Try that.
Is that better?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh, good. So that means I could go through the whole thing again. Thanks, Stephen. I'll start from the word go again. Much appreciated for pointing that out to me. Welcome to the meeting of Inverclyde Council's Education and Communities Committee. This meeting has been held remotely and also in person in order to comply with public health guidelines around social distancing. It will be filmed and recorded for live and subsequent broadcasts available through the Council's website. The Council is a data controller under the General Data Protection Regulations and the Data Protection Act 2018. We broadcast and record Council meetings to fulfil our public task obligation to enable members of the public to observe the democratic process. Data collected during the process will be retained in accordance with the Council's published policies available through the Council's website. Members of the Council are reminded that they should follow the Council's established meetings protocol, including around the use of chat facility, and that comments made in the chat facility are visible to all participants in the meeting, which may include members of the public who have also received invites to the meeting. So with that, can I again thank you for your forbearance there, and can I ask for apologies, substitutions of interest, and substitutions and declarations of interest. Diane.
We have apologies from Councillor Wilson and an apology from Councillor Chris McAuley, who will join us, but he's missing the start of the meeting. We'll join us later on. Convener will now move to a roll call. Can the following members please indicate if they're present at the meeting, either in person or remotely? Provost Brennan.
Remotely.
Councillor Clopty.
In person in the chamber.
Councillor Curley.
Remotely.
Councillor MacLeod.
Remotely.
Councillor McCabe.
Remotely.
Councillor Maguire.
Present remotely.
Councillor McVeigh. Councillor Quinn.
Remotely.
Councillor Robertson.
Present remotely.
Are there any declarations of interest?
And again,
Can
I don't say anywhere there in Inverclyde Leisure is mentioned, it will be a declaration from myself.
Same for me. It's Chris Curley.
And me.
And the beacon. Elizabeth, you'll be the beacon as well.
Yeah, the Beacon and also Chaos Youth Theatre, who are mentioned in paper 4 as well, and apologies that I can't seem to spell declaration.
Okay, thanks for that, Elizabeth. Thanks, Chris. And with that, can we move on to agenda item number 2, and that is the Communities Revenue and Capital Budget, period 9 to the 31st of December 2021. Ian, are you going to take us through this?
Thanks, Convener. This report is to advise committee of the Communities Revenue and Capital Budget position at period 9, which is up to the end of December 21. Section 5 of the report provides details of the 21-22 revenue budget. The current budget for the communities part of the committee is 4.436 million, and the latest projection is an underspend of 92,000, and that's a decrease in expenditure of 24,000 since the last committee. Libraries and museum projected to overspend by 51,000. Sports and leisure projected to underspend by 41,000, Community safety projected to underspend by 44,000. Community halls projected to underspend by 58,000. And most of the variances there have already been reported to committee. So I'll move on to section 6 of the report. That's details of the community's capital programme. The budget for the capital programme is currently 4.486 million, and 662,000 of that is projected to be spent in the current financial year. There's slippage of 675,000 or 50% from the original budget, and the slippage is due to delays with the new indoor tennis facility and the replacement floor for the waterfront pool. Up to the end of January 22, the expenditure was 466,000 or 69% of the expected total for the year. And I'm happy to report the cost of the overall programme is being contained within budget. Section 7 of the report in Appendix 5 gives you details of the community's earmarked reserves. The total earmarked reserves are 92,000, and we're expecting to spend all of that in the current financial year. To date, there has been expenditure of 27,000 or 29.3% of the total, and there's no slippage to report. So I've not got any environments to request for this committee cycle. So committee are asked to note the current projected underspend of 92,000 for the revenue budget and note the financial position of the capital programme, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks for that, Ian. I'm looking for any questions in the chat. Can't see any questions. Can we agree the report?
Agreed.
Thanks for that. Can we move to agenda item number 3, which is the capital programme progress report and asset related items?
Convener, Councillor Quinn has come in with a late question in the chat with regard to the previous item.
Thanks, Stephen. I don't know what I'll do without you. Lynn?
Yeah, it's fine. I think my item, I'm sorry, first of all, I've lost my voice this morning, but I think it's under this next one as well, so it probably wouldn't have really mattered. I've just got a quick question on the underspend for the maintaining of the crawl holes. I'm just looking for a wee bit of an explanation on that. I know that was a sort of temporary measure, and I think we were expecting another report at this committee about the sort of the overall discussion about crawl holes and access to crawl holes.
Through you, Convener, I can take the question on the underspend. If you remember, we created a budget of 19,000, and that was for the staff and the transport costs for the van going round, opening the crawl holes. But that was a full year impact, the 19,000, but it's because of the COVID restrictions, etc. The work hasn't been getting done to the full extent this financial year, so that's why there's an underspend.
Okay, thanks, Ian. I'm going to take, I've got both Tony and Hugh. Tony, can I come to you first? And maybe if you can answer about if I've got a paper coming and why was it not here today if it was due here today? Thanks.
Yeah, I think I reported at the last committee, or maybe the one before, the report will be due once the full year has actually taken place of the pilot programme for the crawl space, so it's too early to come to this meeting. It's just the timing of the committee meetings. So it'll come to the next Education and Communities Committee about a full year about the pilot programme.
Okay, can I bring Hugh in? Hugh?
Yeah, for yourself, Convener, just on the budget is obviously Inverkite Leisure hasn't actually invoiced yet for some of the work, so I was expecting more cost to come against the crawl holes to take up to realistic. It wouldn't be a lot of underspend. I spoke to Inverkite Leisure this morning on that. They haven't been invoicing, so they will now do that, and will be a more spend towards the crawl holes to give us a true picture of the overall cost for the pilot.
Okay, thanks, Hugh. I can go back to Lynn. Lynn, is that okay for you?
Yeah, it's fine. Just hope we're all still here to see the report when it comes to the next committee.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for that. Can we move on to agenda item number 3? As I said, it's the capital programme progress and asset related items. We've got Tony to start off, and we've got Hugh here as well. So whichever one of you want to start off.
Yeah, I'll start off if that's great.
You'll cover this.
Thanks, Convener. I'll just start off running through. This is just an update of where we are with a number of projects that's currently going on through the community's capital budgets. Lady Alice Bowling Club, I'm not going through everything, I'll just go to some highlights. Lady Alice Bowling Club are now working very closely with the management team and the committee to make sure that this gets to cost certainty. There is meetings next week to go through that, and obviously we have additional funding that they've secured and done some additional funding from the council, but we to get to cost certainty on that, and we're working very closely with them. On the indoor tennis, it's very similar to the Lady Alice Bowling Club. We're working very closely with our contractors to get this to cost certainty. We had a very positive meeting yesterday with Sport Scotland, part of the funding agreement. Myself and Tony attended that meeting on behalf of the council, and it was very positive. Just going through everything else, just bringing it to attention, 5.7 in the report, that the tender has now been put out for the water floor. I know we've been waiting on that for a long time, but it's now out for tender, and we should be waiting for things back. But Eddie's here to take any more questions on that. Just on the next one, 5.9, just to give you an update on that. Again, we're working for the community hub in King George building for Glasgow. Eddie's team's working flat out on that to get that out to make sure that we secure the funding from the Scottish Government. We have been given an extra 350,000 towards this project, and we're hopefully this will get signed off by the end of March, if not early April of the next financial year. Just on the 6-point external partner agencies projects, I'm delighted that Craig Enroe Centre is now nearly completion with an extra £50,000 for Scottish Government. And they're nearly completion to do extra work around the site and close off a facility for a gate facility at the back of the facility, which will stop any fluids. So we're working very close with them. And McLeod Shed, again, we're on a very positive moving forward with them. We're waiting for the final costings to come into us for cost certainty. That's due next week. And once that's due, then we have a conversation and sign off documents with Scottish Government, and that project will start hopefully sometime in the new financial year. And we are working, and also they got an extra £50,000 as previously reported. So we're working through that at the present moment. And the officers and councillors will be aware that we are still working very closely with branching out for their funding that's been awarded for next year's Regeneration Capital 1 for 22-23 of 1.1 million. And we're just waiting for confirmation on the full approval from Scottish Government. We have a letter to say that we've got that, but we've still got to do the governance element of that, and we'll not receive that to the new financial year. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, thanks you. I'll bring Councillor McCabe, Stephen in first. Stephen.
Yeah, I was to ask a question on the waterfront movable floor. When we've obviously discussed this project in the past, it was sort of identified as a very specialist piece of work. So it's just to get an understanding in terms of, obviously we've issued the tender. Do we expect a number of tender returns on this, or what's the sort of potential market for companies to undertake this work?
Let Eddie take that one.
Bring Eddie.
Through you, convener, it's a limited market for this scoped type of work. There's only 2 or 3 providers out there, and that's not UK. Some of them are not UK based. So the tenders have actually returned now. So we have had a response from the market, but it is a limited response. But obviously I can't say anything more on it until we've evaluated what we've had returned.
Stephen?
No, that's fine. It's obviously interested to see what the tenders look like eventually when we get the information.
Okay, thanks. Jim McLeod. Jim?
Yeah, thanks, convener. I think I'd asked the question at a previous meeting. I pointed out that several people had been asking me what was happening with the King George VI building, and I'd asked perhaps if officials could be, could speak to particularly the management of at Clune Park, who, along with the staff, will be eventually moving over. It's just to give them an update in what's happening. I've also had other folk asking me as well. So I wonder perhaps if it might be something that the council looks to do, is maybe give an update through the local newspaper, let people know where things are, and what's give an update about what's happening there, so as people are informed. Okay, thanks.
Okay, Jim, I'm going to bring Hugh in, especially regarding the staff, Hugh.
Yeah, obviously the staff are employed by, are managed by Invercargill Leisure, so the staff are aware of the situation going on at the present moment. The staff are just back into Clune Park and continue to work and support Clune Park. I attended the Community Council meeting last week to give an update on where we are across the building, and there was a number of partners and committee members at the meeting. I consistently meet with the steering group, either through myself or through the manager at the centre to give them an update of what's going on. But Eddie can maybe give us an update on where we are with the plan.
Eddie?
Thanks, Convener. It's just to confirm that the tenders are actually out there now, so they are out and being looked at by the market. At the next appropriate stage to kind of feed anything back in terms of progress is when those tenders have been back and evaluated, and we're at a point of issuing a formal acceptance. Because only at that point will we know what the likely construction programme is actually going to be. So at the moment, it's not the right time. I think as soon as the tenders are back and evaluated and we've got an idea of programme, then that's the next time to engage with everybody to provide a fuller update.
Okay, thanks, Eddie. Jim, is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks, Convener.
Chris Curley?
Thank you, Convener. Just related to item 5.2, it talks about ongoing cost certainty project and expect to end in February 2022. Apologies if it's been covered in the introduction, I may have missed it, but can you advise when the price certainty is expected, if that has been identified or work's already undertaken at the end of February?
Yeah, for yourself, Convener.
Yep, Hugh.
We're working flat out in this one with partner agencies and the contractors to get this to cost certainty. Obviously, the costs are coming back higher than expected. And we're asking a number of questions. We had a very positive meeting with Sport Scotland, myself and Tony yesterday, to look at more in depth about what we can do to try and reduce the costing and look at more in depth the best way to take this project forward. We are very aware that this is taking a wee bit of time to get over the threshold, but we are trying to deal and work with the company. Also, Earmarked Reserves are the lead for this, so we're working closely with them too to make sure that we can get to cost certainty within a reasonable budget scope. We're hoping to have an answer within the next month. There's certainly been a delay because of the increased costs, and the increased costs are due to the increased steel and a number of other things that's affecting the project, and also the removal of the earth from reallocating the site to a different location. So we're still consistently constantly talking to the contractors and the people around the cost, but we are aware of this is going on, but we are trying our best to try and get resolved.
Chris, is that okay?
No, that's great. Thank you very much.
I do, you're disappointing in it, and I think we're all disappointed that we couldn't get the tennis centre over the line with this council administration. It has been a 5-year journey to get to this bit, and it'll be for the next administration to take this forward. But it is one of these projects that Sport Scotland, Tennis Scotland, the London Tennis Association, as well as the council, have got a lot invested in this. So it's in everybody's interest that it does come to fruition, not just under Clyde Council. So your point's well made, Chris. If there's no other questions on that, can we agree the recommendations? Thank you. Can we move to agenda item number 4, which is the community's update? I'm looking for Tony. Are you starting this off, Tony?
Thanks, Convener. Yeah, so this is the update paper for the communities part of the committee, and I've provided updates on the very good progress of the implementation of the free travel passes for under 22s. Hugh's team's done a great job getting these distributed. There's still some work to be done in it, but certainly we've kind of kept our side of the bargain, and we're getting the cards issued as quickly as we can. There's also an update on the partnership recovery plan, which details some of the projects that are going to be ongoing in terms of the Summer of Fun, Duke of Edinburgh, and also the culture recovery, and there's a bit in there about Culture Collective as well. There's also an update just to provide reassurance for the committee around the governance of the external organisations, particularly about Inverclyde Leisure and the Beacon Arts Centre, and also the governance of our self-managed community centres, which we don't have any issues with at this point. So happy to take any questions that any member has on any aspect of the paper.
Thanks, Tony. I'm going to bring Chris Curley in first. Chris, you've got the first question.
Thank you. A comment and a question, really. First of all, just to say that just just to congratulate the officers on getting the cards issued. My daughter had her card issued last week, and she's already used it twice. Once to go ice skating in Inverclyde Leisure, and once to meet her friends up the top of the port to actually enjoy a wee bit of kick around. So the whole thing works well. So that obviously it's through Scottish Government funding, etc. But it just shows you it does give a bit of flexibility and freedom to our youngsters to go out and make use of it. Though she was a bit annoyed that she's going to have the same picture until she's 23, so she's not very keen on that. But we'll work on that one when we're around it. The other thing, obviously, is that I think the issue is slightly different for kids who need to get these cards themselves. I think there's a little bit of a glut at the moment because everybody's trying to apply for them, but hopefully that will sort itself out. I've got a tale of two cards in my house. One kid very excited about it, one kid moaning the fact that he can't actually get his card. But thank you very much for the officers for doing that. And just a question really, I've asked this before, and it's a wee thing that's going to pop up from time to time with respect to how we can possibly integrate this within the school transport. I know it's not something that's currently on thing, but I think it's something we probably just need to keep a wee bit of a watchful eye, because if more kids are starting to use the cards and getting more confidence in using public transport, it's maybe something that we can maybe revisit again in the future with respect to trying to take advantage of this card with respect to school transport.
Thanks, Chris. I'm going to bring Tony in first of all on that, and then Hugh.
Okay, thanks very much. On I'm glad the cards have been issued, and I would encourage you to, if you want to speak offline to Hugh about the other card. But we have had an approach in Inverclyde where we actually coordinated it through our schools, and I think we're quite unique in that respect, that other authorities didn't approach it in that way, and that's been central to the success of the cards getting put out. In terms of using the travel cards in school transport, it's something we'll keep a very close eye on, to make sure that we obviously capitalise on that aspect, and we're always looking to see what impact that would have on school transport going forward. So definitely kept an eye on that going forward.
Hugh, can I bring you in for comment?
Yeah, thanks very much for yourself, Convener. Councillor, there's an opportunity to change your pictures as you go forward your age group, so that you can do that. It's done online. It can change we usually do it in S1, S3 and probably S5, so there's no doubt that the picture can be changed. Scottish Government and Transport Scotland have also now launched an app for anybody out with school. That is now, if you download the app, and if you've got an existing Young Scot card, the travel is a lot easier to do now. So I can send you information on that. It's a lot quicker, and it's done in 5 minutes on a new app that's just been announced on Monday of last week.
Okay, Chris.
Yeah, I've seen the new app, and I think it's one of these things. I think some people have maybe tried to get the card, and you're halfway through the process, and the app doesn't work. So it's a bit unfortunate that it doesn't work. But as I say, congratulations to officers for arranging it the way they did through the schools, because it certainly seems to work very well, and it really has simplified the process. So I think a big thumbs up, because I think that system's working great. It's just the fact is we're now going to have a legacy of trying to get the rest of the people who are maybe not within our purview anymore, because there's 17 or so or above, but hopefully that will help most of the people there. But I just wanted to say thank you. It seems to be working well in a very successful scheme. Thank you.
And it's just one of these things, Chris, when you think on photos, I would actually prefer to use my photo for 5 years ago rather than my photo for today. But that's just the thing of young. Can I ask?
Wouldn't we all? Don't we all?
Can I ask the provost to come in, Martin?
Thanks very much, Jim. I was going to ask before I pose my question, is it possible for me to get a Young Scot card? There's no answer to that. What I was going to ask you, Tony, was you and Hugh have done very well with this, obviously, but how many of these NEC cards are currently in the hands of our under 22 population? Would you know that?
Yeah, for yourself, Convener. From the 31st of January 2022, we've issued 8,800 cards to the population of Inverclyde. Obviously, the first time we've ever done a junior card for the primary schools. And the secondary schools are just getting completed at the moment. So by the end of March, beginning of April, we're probably hoping to have at least 10,500 cards reissued from this year. The key thing about it is that the under 16 needs consent. So we're working very closely with our colleagues in education to make sure that we get the consent forms back, because we can't issue a card to an under 16 until we get consent. I think we've got out of that 8,800 cards, I think there's 85% cards been issued, but we're still working to try and, as Tony mentioned earlier, we're still working to try and break that barrier.
Are there, what I wanted to ask, or what I was going to ask you is, are they difficult to reach young people? You know, if you've got 85% coverage at the moment, what about the 15%? Are they difficult to reach, as I said?
For yourself, Convener, I think because of we get agreement to go through the schools, I think that's helping us to make sure that we're reaching the hardest to use children. We're just doing an exercise on the moment, as Tony had mentioned earlier, to make sure that we've got the full numbers done by the end of the financial year. But we'll continue to review it. The cards will get re-upped, because when a young person in primary school turns 12, they need a new card, because it's a new card under the Young Scot brand. The other cards are just junior cards, which got no photographs on it. So we need to consistently do that, probably on a monthly basis now, and work very closely with our colleagues in education and education resources to make sure that we've got the data for that.
You're getting almost fully comprehensive coverage, but that 15%, are they mainly young people between the ages of 17 and 22?
No, these are mostly young people under the age of 16 who are parents have not consented. That's the only issue.
I see.
So parents have to consent now, because it's a Scottish Government brought that new regulations in. A young person can get a Young Scot card when they were 12 previously. Because the travel's been out now, we need to put in we need consent for a parent or guardian before the age of under 16 years old. Is there any reason why a parent wouldn't give consent? No, we don't think so. I think it's just getting the time to do it and everything else. But as I said, we're working closely with our colleagues in education to try and resolve this.
Oh, thanks very much. Thank you.
Okay, Martin. Can I bring Lynn in? Lynn?
Yeah, thanks. Just to mention, I'm one of those parents that have not completed it yet, mainly because my youngest, well, I would be letting her go on. She's too young to be going on transport herself, so really I've still got to take her. So we reckoned let's wait till the rush is over, and then we'll do it at our leisure. So it's just to kind of reassure folk that that's a conscious decision and not, not because of the process. So I think just to mention, I think there is a big, huge thanks to the education staff as well, working on this at a time when they've got 1,001 other things to do. So I realise that the size and scale of it, but they have done a fantastic job. Just a quick question under the Guruk Amphitheatre lights. It just says that the lights are due to be completed by the end of March. Is that still the case? Because we were reckoning summer was mentioned rather than March.
That was based on an update from the lighting department before when we'd done the paper. But I can go back and clarify that and let you know, Councillor.
That would be great.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, can I bring in Natasha?
Thanks, Convener. I've got a couple of bits. I think that you've went over the free travel scheme quite comprehensively, and you've answered all my questions there, I think. Mine was over the summer fun. When will we hear back about the allocation funding for those activities? Just because I'm very aware we're now, second week of March, and our teams need to be able to have time to develop, but also to have time so that they can take annual leave across the summer months and stuff like that. So when will we hear, so that we can make sure our teams are best prepared for the work that they're going to be doing? And my other questions on the Duke of Edinburgh, just with the delay in recruitment, has this led to a decrease in number of participants? Because I know that we're really passionate about the number of young people that we've got going in Duke of Edinburgh and the difference it makes to their lives. I know that usually we've got quite a good uptake in Inverclyde. And then my final point was just on the Beacon Arts Centre. Can we have a paper being brought back just about the change in their progression in their recovery, just because obviously before COVID had hit, we'd had a couple of papers to committee about the beacon in private, and I think that possibly it would be good to get an update at the next committee for whoever the new council is.
Thanks, Natasha. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask maybe Tony to comment on the Summer of Fun, and Hugh to comment on your other point, and finishing off, which I forgot there, and for Ruth to comment on the beacon. I'll go to Tony first.
Thanks, convener. Yeah, the Summer of Fun, obviously it won't run from the very first day of the schools going off to them going back. So we'll make sure our staff get the leave that they require. We're in a different place than we were last year, because obviously our staff are working out in the hubs, and then Summer of Fun as well, whereas it'll be different this year. So we're absolutely conscious of that, but we're still developing the programme at this point, about what it would actually look like, so that we're trying to, using the intelligence we gathered last year about who actually needs this the most, and the types of services that we want to put in the summer. So yeah, I take your point, but we will obviously ensure that our staff get the leave that they need over the summer too.
I'll bring Hugh in with regard to, I remember it was the Duke of Edinburgh. Hugh.
Thank you for yourself, convener. Just on the Summer of Fun too, just that we are engaging with the Scottish Government too around the allocation of funding coming to Inverclyde. It'll not be the same as it was last year, but we haven't been allocated a funding core budget yet. But we've had a number of meetings with them, and there's another meeting next week to give us a better understanding of what moving forward. It slightly will change from it'll now include affordable childcare and Summer of Fun within the same budget. But it will not be as much as it was last year, and as soon as we know anything, we'll obviously go through and let everybody know. Duke of Edinburgh, the staff have now started, which is excellent news. The number haven't fell. The staff and the team behind Duke of Edinburgh have been working flat out to increase the number of young people, and the expeditions are now starting a wee bit earlier than we expected, so that the core number of young people participation is still the same, and its thing continues to grow. So we are actually a bit worried about the number of young people going through due to the expeditions, and we're starting to work on that at the present moment. But we're hoping that this will be a really good year. We are capturing young people who did not participate the year before in their S3, who are now moving to S4, and we've also back to S3. So we are working flat out to try and get the numbers to increasing, but it is working very well for us at the moment.
Thanks, Hugh. And I'll let Ruth to comment on the beacon. Ruth.
Yes, so throughout COVID, the beacon has taken on numerous projects, and in actual fact, it's probably in a better position than we may have expected as we come out of COVID. Now, there are two reasons for that. One is because it has been in receipt of a lot of community grants, so the beacon has been able to develop its outreach work. So where we would typically have had people come into the theatre, the beacon has reached out to the different communities, and that has been incredibly successful. Going forward, basically, the theatre alongside its outreach programme is seen as a very, very good package. So we're very hopeful and optimistic about that. The beacon has bid for and has been able to bring in a lot of grants funding, including the recent loss of income grants funding. So where it is financially is relatively stable, and I'm happy to bring continuing reports as part of our ongoing governance back to the committee. But I would have to say for the beacon, it is a strong picture. However, always with a health warning, we do not know what the public will do coming out of COVID and what the habits will be. So we always need to have a health warning about both the leisure sector and the theatre sector to say that the position they were in and what worked before COVID may not necessarily work post-COVID.
Okay, thanks, Ruth. Natasha, did that cover off all your questions?
It did, yep. Just with the Summer of Fun, it was that mixture of getting that stability from the Scottish Government as well as balancing our staff needs, which I think from what we said that can be done. And it's great to see that the numbers haven't fallen for the Duke of Edinburgh, because that was something I was quite concerned about. And with the beacon one, I can appreciate the health warning, because nobody really knows what life after COVID truly is going to be like. So thanks very much for that.
Okay, thanks, Natasha. I'm going to bring Jim McLeod in next. Jim?
Yes, thanks, convener. First of all, I think it's good news that the Summer of Fun is going to be occurring again this year. I've spoke to several parents and youngsters last year, and they thought it was great. I think it was a very good scheme, and provided for many youngsters and families throughout the district last year. It's good also, I think, to see that Duke of Edinburgh numbers haven't fallen. I think again it's been a good scheme over many years in building confidence and giving young people life opportunities. It's regarding the implementation of free travel for under 22s. I think it's been a great scheme. It's been brought in, and of course it allows now free travel for under 22s, and that's on top of free travel for over 60s and for disabled people in Scotland. So it's given many more people the opportunity to travel, obviously, for free. A couple of questions I was going to ask have actually been asked, and one of the main ones was about how we reach out to people who are not at school. I think the education services and Hugh and in the community side of things have done an excellent job, particularly for the youngsters who are at school and rolling this programme out. But yeah, the question was it was really for youngsters beyond school age. Question I do have is how many do we know how many people, how many under 22s are eligible for the pass in Inverclyde? Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. I'm going to let Hugh come in. Hugh, there was probably 2 points there. What do we do with the young people who have left school to that 22, and do we know roughly how many people would be eligible?
Yeah, for yourself, convener. We're working very closely with our college and employability, and also our partners in employability to signpost them to getyournecard.sco, which is the main way for young people who are not in school to get their cards. If anybody is struggling for that, we made an offer for them to come to our own services to get the cards updated. And also, as I previously says, that anybody who's had an existing card now for a number of years can now go and download an app, and all you need to do is put your existing NEC card at the back of the app now, and that will give you automatically free travel across Scotland for under 22s. Over Scotland, there's 935 young people who should be able to benefit from the overall cards being issued with the free travel for under 22. We reckon within Inverclyde there's probably just over 12,000 who could be affected by this, and the reason is there's a number of young people already got cards, and it turns when you're 21, so it's just when you turn 22 the card stops. But we've obviously never had primary schools, and that's why that's included in it. So we reckon about 12,500, based on the data that we've got at the present moment.
Okay, thanks, Hugh. Is that okay, Jim?
Yes, that's great. I think it's great to hear.
Steve,
I think it's great to hear as many as 12,500 young people will be eligible for us. It's really good news. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Stephen?
Yeah, thanks. I was going to ask on the Meliora community events, if we get any indication of the sort of level of applications that we've received for that funding.
Yeah, for yourself, convener, we had a start to look at it yesterday. We've got 28 applications in across localities, which is quite a good response. And we're starting to go through that process from yesterday, and there's meetings all week to get us where we are before we get back to the community. But it's come in so far.
Okay, thanks for that. Any sort of timescale in terms of when the sort of announcements are going to be made that who's been approved for funding?
Yeah, we're hoping to get everything done within the next couple of weeks, as soon as we can, or a wee bit sooner, as soon as we know. Again, it's about just checking the governance of these organisations, some of the organisations and some of the groups, so that we know exactly where the money's going, and checking that, make sure it's fit for purpose before we agree to it. But as soon as we know anything, we'll let everybody know as soon as we can.
Okay, thanks for that.
Okay, Stephen. If there's no other questions, can we agree the report? Thank you. Can we move to agenda item number 5, which is public space activity in the Women's Safety Survey? This is probably an art paper, given it's International Women's Day today. I see the contact officer is William, but I'm looking to see who will be taking it. I think Ruth's going to take this one. Ruth?
Yes, I'll introduce this. So this is a request for full council to look at, to undertake a survey looking at women's safety, and officers undertook a survey, and the response was mainly from over 18s. So this went back to the Women's Forum, and the Women's Forum very much felt they would like to hear the voice of younger people in the survey. So post-Christmas, a survey was put out to schools, and it's fair to say that it was problematic to get that filled in, just because of both post-Christmas and in the middle of COVID, there was an awful lot going on in schools. So it took us probably longer than we would have wanted to get it filled in, but now the under 18s have filled it in, and you'll see from the appendix that that the gender split perhaps is not what we would expect to see. So we found in the under 18 voice particularly, we've got a fairly even gender split. So the Women's Forum have had sight of this. What we need to do is further work to look at the issues. I think we have to keep the main idea behind the survey was particularly to look at what might stop women undertaking exercise and going out. So making sure that there was a climate and a culture in which females felt safe to exercise, but we also have to acknowledge that there are other aspects that might have come out of the survey. So we're asking that the Women's Forum oversee this survey, and that a fuller report will be brought back to the committee with an analysis of the results, and the fact that what the reparations for this, or the approaches around this, don't always have to link to monetary value. It can be in ways we approach things. Promotions of let people be, or don't be that guy, linked into a lot of the work undertaken already on women's safety. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, thanks, Ruth. First questions from the Provost, Martin.
Thanks, Jim. And it is, as you say, appropriate that we're talking about this on International Women's Day. Just a general point to begin with, questions 1 to 6, I found it very difficult to read the bar charts which were there in tandem with the questions. Sorry. But in any case, I think it's a very good report. But sadly, the analysis doesn't come as a real surprise. So my question is, we have the report. We are aware that to a considerable extent, women are living in a degree of anxiety. So what do we do?
Ruth, what do we do?
So there are a variety of measures that can be taken, and I know I was listening to the radio this morning, and I know there are other authorities looking at improved lighting, or at least lighting to be taken into account as ongoing repairs are done and ongoing planning is undertaken. So making sure that areas are as safe as possible. But I know talking about this with members of the Women's Forum, it's also about attitudes, I think, and making sure that we're publicly advertising just ways of behaving that will make women feel safer, and very much promoting the behaviours that we would want to see from everybody.
Thanks, Ruth.
Is that okay, Martin? Can I bring Lynn in? Lynn?
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, my throat is definitely going. Yes, I think I just want to start it off by saying happy International Women's Day to all our fabulous women and girls in this council chamber and also in the wider community who support other women every day, and I hope that continues. So I think I just want to start by thanking officers, particularly William, as unfortunately he's not here, because I would really like to have thanked him publicly here for all the work that's gone into this, because you can see it has been huge, and the fact that there is 4,000 comments to be analysed, I think the team have got lots of work to continue. And I also want to thank the community for filling in, you know, taking part in this survey, because it's only as good as the results that we have. So I have noted that we have a large number of male responses, and I think that those will be useful elsewhere, but they kind of need to be separated from this, because the point of the survey was to assess women and girls' perception. So if we could get those separated out and used somewhere else, then that would be helpful. As I think Martin had said, the results are sad, but no a surprise, because some they might be a surprise to, but for most women, including myself, unfortunately, we all have a story to tell of inappropriate behaviour from males. You know, so under the results under 6.3 and 6.4, we have about unwanted sexualised attention from males being in there, and also fear of attack, stalking, and you know, it's absolutely appalling. I think we've just probably got a question under there. You know, it does say from adult males. So I just wanted to clarify, you know, adult males, is that a comment from our younger girls, and we were talking about an older age? So, because I think that would be useful. You know, there's been, as I say before, every woman I've spoke to has a separate story about various forms of unwanted sexualised attention in many places, workplaces, schools, public transport, you know, whether that's wolf whistling, catcalling, sexualised behaviour, intimidation, unwanted advances. We've all got many a story, but as I think Ruth had mentioned, you know, with the Police Scotland campaign about don't be that guy, we're really hopefully this survey will lead to sort of men stepping up here, and realising that some of those smaller things actually lead to a bigger thing. You know, I think the Police Scotland campaign is about how sexual violence starts long before you think it does. So I would probably ask today on International Women's Day, and taking a quote from there is, you know, individually we're all responsible for our own thoughts and actions, but collectively we can forge women's equality. But also relating to this survey, we can make women feel safer in our community. So this is really just the start, and I'll look forward to, hopefully I'll still be here to look forward to the actual positive changes that will come from this survey. And I've just got sort of one recommendation, if I can, is just to change under the last bullet point to accept a full report on completion, but actually to include the words with the separation of the male responses. I think we need to see a survey with just the female responses. Thanks.
I think that's fair enough, actually. Have you got any comments on Lynn's comments? Or no, Lynn, thanks for that. I'm going to go to Jim McLeod next. Jim?
Yeah, thanks, convener. First of all, with other members, I'd like to wish everybody a happy International Women's Day today. And as the Provost said earlier, it's very apt that, and the convener as well, very apt that we're having this report today of all days. I think it's shocking, it's very sad that we have to carry out a survey like this in the 21st century. We've all had mums, many of us had sisters, and as many good female role models in society. So it's shocking that, you know, in this day and age that, you know, there's still behaviour like this that goes on. So my hope is that this survey which thanks for bringing us forward, and you know, to yourself, one, it was your own suggestion to do this. So I think it's been a very good survey, and thanks to the council officers for seeing it through. And like what one said, thanks to everybody for taking part. I was surprised, like it's mentioned as well, the numbers of males. I think it was 26% of respondents were male, and it's a higher number, you know, amongst young males. So I just wondered how did that happen? You know, when the survey quite obviously is reaching out to females, but do we know why so many males have responded to the survey?
Jim, I'll ask Ruth to comment on that. Ruth?
Yes, it was particularly in the younger age group, and of course that was targeted through schools, so it would have been targeted generically. So 3 observations. One, it could be that young people don't tend to think in such gender-specific ways. You know, there might be a bit of a kickback from. Honestly, to say from the boys saying, what about us? Because of course we didn't balance it with a male-only survey, and that perhaps hadn't been explained to them. The other one might be people mucking about. Some young boys may have filled it in, just sometimes, as people do with surveys. When young people fill surveys in, sometimes they can not give the honest answers. And the third one may be that some of our young males don't feel safe when they're out. And I think that's something we absolutely have to take on board. And I think Councillor Quinn's idea of separating the issues out is very, very pertinent for this, because actually this survey was about women's safety. But what we're getting back from our younger boys is actually some of them have concerns about their safety, and we also need to look at that. So I think we've got a sub piece of work to do coming out of the information we've got.
Okay, thanks, Ruth. Okay, Jim, can I move on to Natasha?
Yeah, I would just say, sorry, Kildare. I would just say, yeah, absolutely right. I don't think we should lose that information about the males, particularly young males. The other thing I think at the committee meeting where we were discussing the survey, I think I'd spoke about females with disabilities. I just wondered if we were aware of any females with disabilities who had responded to this questionnaire, or was there nothing contained within the survey that might have gleaned if any female response had any impairments?
Ruth, can you?
To knowledge, I don't think that's what we asked for, but we do have the comment session, the sections 3 comment sections where the people have taken the opportunity to fill that in, and we're still going through the analysis of that, Councillor MacLeod. So if there's any issues brought to light, we'll certainly take those as part of the analysis.
Okay, thanks, Ruth. Jim, is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine, thanks.
Can I move to Natasha? Natasha?
Thanks, Jim. Yep, just on this, looking at it, I'm happy for the Women's Forum to get this kind of put across to them. I do think, as I intimated when we were first bringing this to committee, that we should have a survey for all, just because we have seen some young men, probably because it was advertised through schools, come forward. But I have had representations of men who are 25 years old and younger before the survey came out, who were saying that they didn't feel safe in the community for a variety of reasons, whether that be because they identified as maybe being transgender, or maybe because they did not look like a typical cisgendered male, things like that. And I think that we need to be looking at that, because we have seen an increase in Scotland in hate crimes related to things like that. So I think we do need to look at that. So I would suggest that we look at a survey either for men or a more general survey. I'm looking forward to the fuller report to kind of seeing how those comments are boiled down, because I think whilst the general gist of what we've got in Appendix 2 is really helpful, I think that there's more there. I would like to see, when we're looking at, like, for example, question number 8, the areas in which people aren't feeling safe. such as socialising, eating out, travelling, exercise, leisure, all those ones. We need to really boil down what is making people not feel safe, and as a community, what action can we take, but also as a council and as organisations, whether that's Inverclyde Leisure, the Beacon, you know, Pure Gym, whatever gyms people are using from this area. We need to be looking at what is in the gift of us to do, and what do we need to empower our community to do. I'm also disappointed in question 1 when we're looking at the age. I'm really disappointed with the low numbers. I'm sure I've mentioned this before. Younger women who, like 21 to 39 specifically, but even 18 to 39, it's quite a low turnout compared to 17 and younger and 40 plus. So I would want to really look at ways that we can engage more with women of that age, especially seeing as these are women who maybe are going out to other places, other entertainment venues, which might be lost in our younger, older population. So I think a bit of work needs to be done around that, and I don't have an answer to how that can be included within this. I don't know if there's specific groups that we can reach out to get that information. But overall, really happy to see the output from this report. Really excited to see the fuller report. But I think we've still got a little bit of work to do here to make sure we are getting the fullest picture possible.
Okay, any comments, Ruth? No. I think on that, Natasha, we're remitting this back to the Women's Forum, obviously, to do a deep dive under the analysis. And given the comments that Lynn said as well, I would expect that more will come out of that. I expect more information to come out of the Women's Forum, which, and you've been on it as well, you'll be able to make sure that those points are forcibly held here. And I'm sure I'm definitely sure we've not heard the last of this report. So if we've not got any further comments on it, can we agree the report, including the changes that Councillor Quinn that Lynn suggested in the final bullet point?
Agreed.
Okay, thank you. And that, can we move to agenda item number 6, which is the McLean Museum and Art Gallery Management Policies and Service Improvement Plan for 22 to 25. And I believe that will be Alana. Alana, good to see you.
Yes, thank you, through you, Convener. The purpose of the report is to seek approval for 3 management policies relating to collections care and conservation, to documentation and to access at the McLean Museum and Art Gallery, and additionally to seek approval for the museum's forward plan. Approval of these plans and policies is a prerequisite for our accreditation renewal, which we will be looking to submit later on this month. Happy as always to take any questions.
Thank you, Alana. I'm looking for any questions in the chat. Can't see any. Can we agree the report? Okay. Now, can I just say that's the end of the community side of the agenda, and that's an hour. So I'm taking it for granted that the education will be an hour as well. But can I just say it's the final community side for this term. Can I personally thank all the officers on the community side? Can I thank Hugh and Tony, as always, Eddie, Alana, obviously Ruth. It's been a good journey. We've done a lot. Unfortunately, there's a couple of things we've not been able to get over the line. But I'm sure we've left the next administration in good stead on the community side, and we're just coming up. We've already mentioned the tennis. We know about the Grieve Road. There's a number of community bits that just failed to go over the line for this administration that I'm sure come after May will be on and to ensure that these are complete in a timely manner. So can I thank you very much, and can I look forward to seeing you back at 4 o'clock.